Before we ever knew fire, night ruled the world. And I don't mean that poetically. I mean it literally. When the sun went down, that was it. You were done. Whatever you hadn't finished, whatever you hadn't found, whatever you hadn't killed or eaten, too late. The dark swallowed everything, and you sat there in it, hoping nothing with bigger teeth was nearby. We forget what darkness actually meant back then. We flip switches now. We tap screens. We've made night into something almost decorative. Mood lighting, city skylines, candles on a dinner table. But strip all that away. Go back far enough, back before any of it, and darkness was something else entirely. It was fear, real fear, the kind that sits in your stomach. It was cold you couldn't escape. It was hunger you couldn't solve. It was hearing something move through the trees and not knowing, never knowing what it was. Could be wind, could be a wolf, could be something worse. You just sat there, shaking, waiting for morning, hoping you'd see it. Humans were pathetic, honestly. I don't say that to be cruel. I say it because it's true. No claws, no fangs, no venom, no thick hide, no speed worth mentioning. Every other creature on this planet had some kind of advantage, some built-in weapon or defense. We had nothing. Soft skin, blunt teeth, mediocre eyesight in the dark. We were prey. That happened to walk upright. The only reason we survived at all is that we were stubborn, and we bred fast enough to absorb our losses. Up on Olympus, the gods shone like the future itself. Marble and gold and endless feasting. Down here, people squatted in mud, shivered in rain, and died from things that would embarrass a modern veterinarian. The gap between heaven and earth wasn't just spiritual. It was obscene, and somebody noticed. Not a god, exactly. Something older than the Olympians. Something from the generation before. He stood among the divine, but he kept looking down. Not the way Zeus looked down. The way a landlord surveys property he doesn't much care about. No, this was different. This gaze had weight to it. There was petty in it, sure, but there was anger too, a kind of frustrated, impatient, almost parental fury, because he could see what humans were. Small, helpless, fumbling in the dark. But he could also see what they weren't yet, what they could become. Those clumsy hands that couldn't even start a fire. He saw cities in them, ships, written language, medicine, music. He saw everything we'd eventually build, and it drove him half mad that nobody else seemed to see it. His name was Prometheus. I should tell you what that name means, because it matters. It comes from a root that essentially means forethought. The one who thinks ahead, the one who sees before. Most people, most gods, they look at the world and see what's in front of them. Prometheus looked at the world and saw what was coming. He could read tomorrow the way you and I read a sentence. That was his gift. It was also, as it turned out, his curse. Because here's the thing about seeing the future, even a little. It makes the present unbearable. If you know things could be better, if you can actually see how they could be better, then every moment they're not is an insult. Every injustice hits harder. Every unnecessary suffering feels like a choice someone made. Because it is. He was a titan. That meant he belonged to the old order, the one before Zeus and the Olympians took over. The Titans were the first rulers, the first powers, the original architecture of the cosmos. They were ancient, the way bedrock is ancient, and most of them had been defeated, imprisoned, scattered. Zeus and his siblings had fought a massive war. The Titanomachy, they called it, though that's a word that sounds better in Greek, and won. The old world fell, the new one rose, and at the center of the new one sat Zeus, lightning bolt in hand, making sure everybody knew it. Zeus was still consolidating power in those days. You know how it is with new regimes. The war's over, but the paranoia isn't. He'd beaten the Titans, claimed the sky, rebuilt the cosmic order from scratch. But that wasn't enough. It's never enough, is it? He didn't just want to rule. He wanted submission. He wanted every knee bent, every head bowed, every voice whispering his name with the appropriate amount of terror. Power wasn't the point. Obedience was. Prometheus didn't bend. He didn't make a scene about it. Not at first. The friction was quiet, the way all serious conflicts start. A look held too long. A question asked at the wrong moment. A silence where agreement should have been. Zeus would say something about the natural order, about divine supremacy, about humans being a minor footnote in a story that was really about the gods. And Prometheus would just not nod. That's all it took. That small refusal to agree. That tiny, stubborn, no, hiding in his silence. They saw humans differently. That was the root of it. When Zeus looked down at people, he saw insects. Useful sometimes, amusing occasionally, but fundamentally beneath notice. Short-lived, disorganized, weak. Why would you invest anything in creatures that die so quickly? It'd be like building a mansion on sand. Pointless. But Prometheus. And this is what made him dangerous. Prometheus saw potential. He didn't love humans for what they were. He loved them for what they could become. There's an enormous difference between those two things, and it changes everything. When you love someone for what they are, you're content. When you love them for what they could be, you're restless. You can't sit still. You start doing things. Risky things. Stupid things. Beautiful things. So here's where the trouble really starts. There came a day, and I wish I could tell you exactly when, but myths aren't good with calendars, when the gods and humans needed to work out the terms of their relationship. Specifically, the question of sacrifice. When you killed an animal to honor the gods, who got what? Which parts went up to heaven, and which parts stayed on earth? This sounds like a minor logistical issue, and maybe if it had been handled quietly, it would have stayed that way. But it wasn't minor. It was about hierarchy, about who mattered more, about the fundamental structure of the universe. Prometheus volunteered to handle the division. And this is where you have to admire the sheer audacity of what he did, even as you wince at how badly he knew it would go. He took an ox, he slaughtered it. Then he divided it into two piles. In one pile, he put all the good stuff, the meat, the fat, the organs, everything nourishing and valuable. But he covered it with the ox's stomach, which is, let's be honest, the least appetizing part of any animal. It looked disgusting. In the other pile, he put the bones, nothing but bones, but he wrapped them in a layer of rich, gleaming fat, so they looked incredible, shining, luxurious, irresistible. Then he offered Zeus the choice. Take a second to appreciate what's happening here. Prometheus knew Zeus. He knew the pride, the vanity, the insistence on having the best of everything. He knew Zeus would reach for the beautiful pile, because Zeus always reached for the beautiful thing. That was the whole con. Make the worthless option look gorgeous. Make the valuable option look ugly. Then let ego do the rest. Zeus chose the glistening pile. Of course he did. He pulled back the fat and found bones. Just bones. I imagine there was a silence. The kind of silence that makes everyone in the room suddenly very interested in their own feat. And then the storm broke. Now, some people tell this story like it's a funny little prank. A trickster moment. Ha, Prometheus fooled the big guy. But it wasn't funny, not even a little. Because what Prometheus had actually done was something no one had ever done before. He'd made the supreme authority look stupid. In public. In front of everyone. He'd proven that power doesn't guarantee wisdom. That a king can be outsmarted by a subject. That the guy on the biggest throne in the universe can still fall for the oldest trick in the book. Not every power sees everything, Prometheus had effectively said, and not every throne was earned. Zeus heard that message. He heard it loud and clear. He didn't come for Prometheus right away. That's not how Zeus worked. He was cruel, but he was patient in his cruelty. He went for the humans first. He took away their fire. And I need you to understand what that meant. Because if you're reading this in a room with electric lights, with a furnace humming in the basement, with a stove in the kitchen and a phone in your pocket that can summon emergency services in 30 seconds, you cannot easily imagine what losing fire meant to people who had nothing else. Fire was everything. Everything. It was warmth when the night turned cold. It was cooked food instead of raw, bleeding meat that might kill you with parasites. It was light in the darkness. It was the one thing that made predators think twice. It was metalworking. It was pottery. It was the ability to survive winter. It was, in the most literal sense, the difference between civilization and extinction. Without fire, humans went back to being naked, shivering, terrified animals huddled in the dark. Zeus knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't just removing a convenience. He was trying to kill the future. He looked at humanity and decided that if he couldn't keep them small by default, he'd keep them small by force. He was strangling potential in its crib. And this is the part of the story that makes Prometheus immortal. Not the trick with the ox. Not even the theft that came next. This moment. Right here. The moment he looked at what Zeus had done and decided he wouldn't accept it. Because let me ask you something. How many people defy authority? Plenty. It's practically a hobby. How many people defy a god? Fewer, but it happens. Stories are full of them. But how many people defy a god, knowing, truly knowing, with absolute clarity? What's going to happen to them afterward? That's where the list gets very, very short. Prometheus knew Zeus. He'd watched him destroy the Titans. He'd seen what happened to those who opposed the new order. He understood, probably better than anyone alive, that Zeus's retribution would be creative, personal, and eternal. This wasn't going to be a slap on the wrist. This wasn't going to be exile or a stern talking to. This was going to be the kind of punishment that other beings would whisper about for millennia, as a warning. He knew all of that. He did it anyway. It must have been night. I keep imagining it that way, and maybe I'm wrong, but it feels right. It feels like the kind of decision that belongs to darkness. The halls of Olympus, quiet. The gods sleeping, or distracted, or drunk on nectar. The fire burning somewhere sacred, somewhere forbidden, somewhere you absolutely were not supposed to go. And Prometheus, going there anyway. Some versions say he took a spark from the sun. Others say he crept into Hephaestus's forge and stole an ember from the god of craft's own hearth. The details shift depending on who's telling it, but the core stays the same. He reached out and took something that belonged to the gods, something they'd specifically decided humans couldn't have, something Zeus had personally removed from the mortal world. He hid it in a hollow fennel stalk. That detail always gets me. Not a grand vessel, not a divine container, a plant, a dried-out, hollow weed. He smuggled the most transformative force in human history, inside a stick you'd barely notice on the side of a road, and he carried it down to Earth. This was not just theft. I need to be clear about that. This was a manifesto. Fire is knowledge. Fire is technology. Fire is the ability to shape the world instead of being shaped by it. Fire is medicine and metalwork and cooked grain. Fire is a city wall built with forged tools. Fire is a ship sealed with heated pitch. Fire is a child reading by lamplight. Fire is everything we've ever built, traced all the way back to its first ancestor, a spark, in a Titan's stolen hand. Prometheus didn't give humans warmth, he gave them a chance. Picture it, the first time a human held fire. The first time that orange glow flickered in mortal fingers. The confusion. The wonder, the impossible, brain-breaking realization that the darkness could be pushed back. That the night was not absolute. That you could sit in a circle of light and the things out there. The wolves, the shadows, the cold, they stopped at the edge. They couldn't cross. Imagine those first faces gathered around a flame. Children who'd never been warm at night. Old people whose joints had ached every winter for decades. Holding their hands toward something they didn't have a name for yet. Mothers who could now see their babies' faces after sunset. Hunters who could cook meat, preserve food, survive another season. And somewhere in that circle, without anyone knowing it, the first blacksmith was born, the first baker, the first astronomer staring up from the firelit clearing, finally able to stay awake long enough to watch the stars and wonder what they were. Prometheus gave humans possibility. That's the word. Not just survival, possibility. But on Olympus, a silence had shattered. When Zeus found out, and of course he found out, because gods always find out, he wasn't just angry. He was insulted at a level that transcended anger. Because this wasn't about fire. Not really. It was about authority. Someone had looked at the boundary Zeus had drawn and said, "No, that line isn't real. I'm crossing it." Someone had decided that the king of the gods didn't get to choose who deserves what. And if there's one thing that every ruler in every story in every age of the world finds unforgivable, it's that. Not the act itself. The implication behind it, the quiet declaration that your power is not final. Zeus needed a punishment that would outlast memory. Death wouldn't do. Death is too quick, too clean, too merciful. What he wanted was a monument. Something alive. Something that would keep suffering long after everyone forgot why. So that when they rediscovered the story, the horror would feel fresh. They took Prometheus to the Caucasus Mountains, the far edge of the known world. They chained him to a rock face, iron through his wrists, stone at his back, nothing but empty sky above and a drop below that went further than sight. No city within 100 miles, no friend, no witness, no comfort, just wind at altitude and the knowledge that no one was coming. Then they sent the eagle. Every morning it arrived. Every morning. It tore open his belly and ate his liver every night because he was immortal, because that was the specific cruelty of it. His liver grew back. Every morning, the eagle came again. Try to sit with that for a second, not the gore. That's easy to sensationalize and easy to forget. Sit with the repetition, the every morning-ness of it. Waking up and knowing exactly what's about to happen. Healing just enough to be hurt again. Never dying, never recovering, never moving past it. Just the cycle, forever. That was divine justice. Zeus wasn't punishing a body, he was punishing an idea. This, he was telling every being in the cosmos, is what happens when you give humans too much. This is the cost of generosity. This is what compassion buys you. The punishment was aimed at Prometheus, yes, but its real audience was everyone else. Every god, every spirit, every creature who might look at humanity and feel something soft and stupid, like sympathy. But here's where Zeus miscalculated, and honestly, it's the same miscalculation every tyrant in history has made, so you'd think someone would learn. The punishment didn't break Prometheus. It made him legendary, because there is something in us, in humans, in the beings Prometheus loved enough to suffer for, that responds to unjust suffering not with submission, but with recognition. We see someone punished for doing the right thing, and something inside us catches fire. Pardon the metaphor, but it's accurate. Prometheus chained to that rock became more powerful than Prometheus free. His agony became a symbol. His endurance became a story. And stories, as Zeus should have known, are far more dangerous than sparks. Chained to the Caucasus, Prometheus stopped being just a titan. He became the cost of rebellion, the face of knowledge gained through sacrifice, the figure who chose humanity over safety, who sided with the weak against the strong, who looked at the most powerful being in existence and said, "You're wrong." And every time a human struck flint to steel, every time a blacksmith heated iron, every time a mother warmed her child by a hearth fire, Prometheus's crime was vindicated again. His punishment was eternal, but so was his gift. Zeus couldn't take that back. The fire was out. It was in human hands now, spreading, multiplying, building. You can chain the thief, but you can't unlight the flame. The story doesn't end with the eagle, though. Zeus wasn't satisfied with just punishing Prometheus. He wanted to punish the humans too. Because what good is making an example if you don't also make the recipients of the stolen goods regret receiving them? So he sent Pandora. I won't tell her whole story here. She deserves her own telling, and the way she's usually reduced to, the woman who opened the box, is its own kind of crime. But the short version is this: the gods created her as a gift. Beautiful, irresistible, absolutely brimming with charm. They sent her to Prometheus's brother, Epimetheus, whose name means afterthought, the one who thinks too late, which tells you everything you need to know about how that went, along with a jar, or a box, depending on the translation. Either way, she opened it and outpoured everything we now call suffering, disease, hardship, grief, envy, pain, old age, loss, all the thousand miseries that make human life what it is. Zeus's message was clear. You wanted fire? Fine. Here's everything that comes with it. And this, I think, is the darkest part of the entire myth. Not the eagle, not the chains. This, because what Zeus was really saying is that knowledge has a price. That progress isn't free. That every gift carries a shadow. You get fire, you also get the capacity to burn. You get technology, you also get weapons. You get civilization, you also get its discontents. You rise, and in rising, you discover entirely new ways to fall. Was Zeus right? I hate to say it, but partly. Look around, we've got the fire. We've had it for a long time. And what have we done with it? We've built hospitals and concentration camps. We've created antibiotics and chemical weapons. We've put people on the moon and put people in cages. Every tool we've ever invented has been used for creation and destruction in roughly equal measure. Fire warms the home and burns the city. The same knowledge that cures disease engineers new ones. Prometheus knew this. I'm almost sure of it. That's what makes him extraordinary. He wasn't naive. He wasn't some starry-eyed idealist who thought giving humans fire would automatically make everything wonderful. He was the one who sees ahead. Remember, he could see the wars that fire would make more lethal. He could see the greed that would grow alongside the abundance. He could see that the tools he was handing over would be used to build and to destroy, to heal and to harm, to free and to enslave. He saw all of that. He gave us the fire anyway. Why? Because he believed that an innocence maintained through ignorance isn't innocence at all. It's just another kind of prison. A humanity that stays weak and small and safe in the dark isn't virtuous, it's captive. And a captive isn't good. A captive is just controlled. Prometheus didn't think humanity deserved comfort. He thought humanity deserved a choice. The choice to grow up, to face the world with open eyes and capable hands, and all the terrifying responsibility that comes with both. He gave us fire knowing we'd burn ourselves with it, because the alternative, staying in the dark forever, obedient and ignorant and cold, was worse. That idea still feels radical. After thousands of years, it still feels like the sharpest thing in this story. Not the theft, not the punishment, the philosophy behind the theft. Is it better to be safe and ignorant, or free and burdened with knowledge? Is innocence worth anything if it was never a choice? Is the mess of civilization, with all its war and greed and cruelty, still preferable to a peaceful, permanent childhood? Prometheus answered yes. And every time we argue about censorship, about access to information, about whether people can be trusted to handle the truth, about whether progress is worth its cost, we're still answering that question. We're still inside his myth. Maybe that's why he resonates so much lately. Because we're living in a time when these questions aren't abstract anymore. Who owns knowledge? Who decides who gets access to what? Is technology liberation or a leash? When someone in power says, "This isn't for you," whether it's information, tools, opportunity, freedom, is defiance the right response? And if it is, are you prepared for what it costs? Prometheus paid God. Did he pay? And there's something else about him that makes him feel more real than most ancient figures. He's not a winner. He doesn't ride off into the sunset. He doesn't defeat Zeus in some climactic battle. He doesn't get the girl, save the kingdom, and live happily ever after. He gets chained to a rock and eaten alive, day after day, for longer than most civilizations last. He's one of the oldest examples of a character who saves everybody else and cannot save himself. I think about him up there sometimes, on the mountain, in the wind, the rock cold against his back, the chains cutting into his wrists, the sky empty and enormous above him. What was he thinking about during those endless days? Was he angry? Was he afraid? Did he regret it? Did he ever, even for 1 second, wish he'd kept his head down and let humanity fend for itself? Or did he think about the fires burning far below? The villages he'd never see, the children he'd never meet, the smiths and bakers and builders and sailors, all of them tracing their existence back to a spark he'd carried inside a hollow weed. Did he think about how the world was changing, slowly, down there in the mud and the noise, and know, really know, in his bones, in his regrowing liver, that it was worth it? I think he did. I think that's what kept him sane. Not hope. Hope is too flimsy for that kind of suffering. Something harder. Something closer to conviction. The absolute, unshakable knowledge that he was right. That even if no one ever came to save him, even if the eagle came every morning until the sun went dark, the fire was lit. Humanity had it now, and nothing, not Zeus, not Olympus, not all the power in heaven, could take it back. Some versions of the myth do give him a rescue. Heracles shows up eventually, kills the eagle, breaks the chains. It's a good ending, satisfying. The hero arrives, the suffering stops. Justice gets at least a partial hearing. But I don't think Prometheus's real story depends on whether he was freed. His immortality was sealed long before any rescue. It was sealed the moment they chained him up. Because what makes a story last isn't the ending, it's the recognition. It's that moment when someone hears it and thinks, I know that feeling. I know what it's like to be punished for doing the right thing. I know what it costs to stand up when everyone else kneels. And humans have been recognizing themselves in Prometheus for 3,000 years. We see ourselves in him because we know, most of us, anyway, if we're being honest, that doing the right thing and doing the safe thing are often not the same thing. That gifts come with burdens. That progress doesn't bring peace. It brings new and more complicated kinds of unrest. That loving someone, really loving someone, whether it's one person or 7 billion, means being willing to suffer for them. Prometheus isn't just the titan who stole fire. That's the children's version. The real story is bigger and harder and uglier and more beautiful than that. He's the first great figure in all of storytelling who violated a cosmic boundary, not for power, not for glory, but because he believed the people on the other side of that boundary deserved better. He looked at the divine law, and he looked at human need, and he chose human need every time. In Zeus's eyes, he was a criminal. In humanity's eyes, he was the reason we have everything. And maybe the most interesting thing about him, the thing that keeps the story from being a simple hero tale, is that his gift wasn't clean. Fire brought light, but it also brought danger. Knowledge brought freedom, but it also brought the capacity for new kinds of evil. Prometheus didn't deliver humanity into paradise. He delivered us into adulthood. And adulthood is messy. Adulthood is knowing that every tool is also a weapon. Every freedom is also a responsibility. Every step forward comes with the possibility of falling on your face. He refused to let us remain children. He trusted us enough, or loved us enough, or was stubborn enough to hand us something dangerous and say, "Here, grow up, make something. I believe you can." Whether we've earned that faith is still an open question. So picture this, one last image. A mountain so high the air thins to almost nothing. Wind that cuts through anything, even divine skin. Sky the color of cold stone, and Prometheus, alone, chained to the rock. His body broken, torn, rebuilt, torn again. But his eyes are still clear, still looking forward, still seeing ahead. Far below, so far he probably can't make out the details. People are sitting around fires. A child is warm for the first time on a cold night. A blacksmith is hammering metal into a shape that didn't exist before. A tool, a plow, a blade. A woman is cooking grain. An old man is sitting outside after dark, and for the first time in his long life, he's not afraid of the night. Prometheus can't see any of this. Maybe he can sense it. Maybe he can just feel it in his bones. The way you sometimes feel that something you did mattered, long after you've lost the ability to verify it. And maybe there's something on his face, not quite a smile. A smile would be too easy, too neat for a story like this. Something quieter, something you'd only notice if you were looking closely. An expression that says, I knew this would happen to me. I knew it would hurt. I knew it wouldn't stop hurting. And I'd do it again right now, without hesitating. Because some people weren't built for comfort. Some people weren't put here to maintain the order. Some people, the rarest, the most impossible kind, were born to break something open so that light could get through. And the price of being that person is that you don't get to stand in the light yourself. You're too busy holding the door. Prometheus was one of those. That's why he's still alive, not as a myth. Myths can be forgotten, as a question. A living, uncomfortable, unavoidable question that keeps coming back every time someone with power says, no, and someone without power says, why not? What belongs to humanity? How much should knowledge cost? Who gets to decide what we're allowed to know? And if someone breaks the rules to put something vital into our hands, something that changes everything, something that can build and destroy in equal measure, were they right? And the last question, the one that matters most. If Prometheus could do it all over again, knowing the chains, knowing the eagle, knowing the mountain and the wind and the 10,000 mornings of agony, would he steal the fire a second time?
Yeah.
He would. Because what made him unforgettable wasn't just that he defied the gods. Plenty of characters do that. What made him unforgettable was that he knew what it would cost and did it anyway. Not out of recklessness, not out of ignorance. Out of a clear-eyed, fully informed, absolutely deliberate decision that some things are worth more than your own comfort, more than your own safety, more than your own body. And the people who change the world, the ones who really change it, the ones whose names last, are almost always the ones who burned themselves first.